Jane, good morning or good evening there. This has obviously been going on for a few weeks now. Any sign that the authorities, or in fact the American people, are tiring of this protest?
Well, Andrew, the authorities certainly are. There have been some more scuffles today in New York City and around the country, similar scenes. But as for the American people, a new poll done by Time actually shows that the American public tends to see this Occupy Wall Street movement in quite a positive light, and that most Americans, some 50-something% of them, actually see it more favourably than they do the Tea Party movement, which came up from the right and exerted so much influence on last year's mid-term elections here. That could be because one of the things motivating this group of protesters is this growing gap between rich and poor in this country, and that's something that the average American can see with their own eyes and identify with. Democrats have been sympathising with the sentiments expressed by these protesters, almost as if they want to harness the energy of this group, thinking it might be able to do something similar for Liberals as the Tea Party movement did for Conservatives last year. But, Andrew, you'd have to say that the vagueness of the protesters' goals continues to undermine them. Even a couple of nights ago here on the David Letterman show, the former President Bill Clinton was talking about the protesters, saying that he thinks the movement will ultimately end up being a positive thing, but he was urging them to really get specific and ask for something specific, saying you can't just kind of rail against the status quo, that creates a vacuum, and if you don't fill that with another idea, someone else will.
Jane, it's interesting. I mean, you say the Democrats are trying to harness this energy, but obviously you've got a Democrat in the White House, and part of the problem, these protesters say, is what the lack of leadership in Washington. So how does that work to benefit the Democrats?
Well, this is what Barack Obama seems to be having to resort to, because the economy is his number one problem, and he's been unable to get unemployment below 9%. It's still above 9%. So his strategy politically now seems to be trying to align himself with the discontent with the system, even though, as you say, he's the one who's been at the helm for the last few years.